Let's do it. Slightly gentle takeoff, but let's see how fast we go. It feels pretty quick. Holy shit. Holy shit. 0 to 100 in seconds. This V8, it just sounds so epic. Come here. Come here. Yes, hello. Well, I've just found a lost dog. Hello, we'll take you home, huh? The Chevy Silverado is the last of the holy trinity of American trucks that we have reviewed here at Car Source. I've done the Ford F-150, I've done the RAM TRX, to be fair, that thing is insane. And now I've got this, the Chevy Silverado. I have actually reviewed this before, a real base model when I hired one in the US, back almost 2 years ago now, but here I am with an Australian spec LTZ, or Luxury Touring Z. I don't know what the Z stands for. Like all big American trucks, it comes here in left-hand drive and then gets locally remanufactured. And in this case, it's actually imported by GMSV, or General Motors Special Vehicles. They were the company that was left after Holden left the market a few years ago. So today I'm going to review this one here. It's technically the cheapest Chevy Silverado, but none of these American trucks are cheap. This thing here is $130,500 before on-road costs. You do get a lot of vehicle for that. I'm not just talking about size. You get quite a lot of inclusions as well. But of course, like any vehicle, it does have a couple of So today I'll let you know all about that by taking you through an exterior tour of the Chevy Silverado. Sorry, my American followers. We'll talk about its payload, its towing ability. We'll check out its tub specs. Of course, moving on to the interior. What is that like? Especially for a truck that has luxury in its name. And some of the really cool backseat features that all of these American trucks seem to have. They've all got their own little niche. Then we will launch this thing, see just how powerful this 6.2 litre V8 actually is, especially for a truck that weighs 2,540 kilograms. Wow. And of course, we will shift all of that mass, giving it lots of sauce around Saucy Corner. Before I end on my final thoughts, should you buy a Chevy Silverado? And now that I've completed this holy trinity, should you buy one over a Ford F-150 or a Ram 1500? Let's get into it. Let's get this out of the way. I might be 5'11". I'm a very average height and I am dwarfed. I am dwarfed by the Chevy Silverado and all American trucks. These things are huge. Come back to the dimensions in a moment, but yeah, massive. Now, there is also the off-road performance-focused ZR2. It's about $5 more than this, and it does have quite a few deletions, but you also get a few more additions. Wow, that sun has just come out very bright. So if you want to learn more about exactly what you get by grade or read our written review, just Google Car Source Chevrolet Silverado review and you'll find everything you need to know there. Let's talk about the way it looks, because I think it looks so good. I think it's such a good looking truck. Huge, menacing, aggressive, exactly what you'd want, really, in an American truck. So you get these very nice daytime running lights here. They're also sequential indicators, which is pretty cool. You get very bright LEDs there as well. Wouldn't be standing in front of those while you flash it. You get this huge chrome grille, which in this awfully bright sunlight is probably making a very nice shimmer at the moment. And of course, up here, you get this massive like power bulge saying 6.2 liters, which is the amount of freedom liters you get under the bonnet. Of course, we'll come back to that naturally aspirated V8 because it is an epic engine. Of course, you have a massive steel bumper down the bottom. You wouldn't want to be hit by that, let me tell you. And a couple of these tow hooks there in case you do get stuck off-road. It does come with the Z71 package. You can see the badge here. That gives you 20-inch wheels with all-terrain Bridgestone jeweler tires, an automatically locking rear differential, and Rancho suspension. Rancho dampers anyway. And yes, all Chevy Silverados in Australia do come with this package as standard. Oh, also for the dual mode exhaust. But again, we'll come back to that. I do love the Chevy ribbon. You really don't see many of those, do you? A lot of people put them on their Holden Commodores back in the day, and that was terrible then, and it's terrible now. Please don't do that. Oh, and I should mention that even though the LTZ does sit lower to the ground than a ZR2, which again has that off-road suspension, it does still get a lot of steel underbody protection to protect everything. So yes, you could definitely take this thing off-road. It's pretty menacing, really. Let's check out the side. One of the funniest things about the side of the Chevy Silverado LTZ is actually just how bright these chromed out side steps, metal by the way, how bright they are and how they reflect onto the bodywork. You could really see that. So let's talk about the side. You get these huge 20-inch wheels. They're very chromed out as well with these Bridgestone jeweler all-terrain tires to them and double wishbone suspension up front. You get a 360 camera here. You get these metal side steps, like I said, keyless entry, and go. You have very tinted privacy glass as well. And then if you come to the back, you will notice that this thing still gets leaf spring suspension, which yes, it does need, especially if it wants to carry that payload. And yes, this thing is huge, 5,931 millimeters long, 1,930 millimeters tall, 2,086 millimeters wide, and its wheelbase is 3,745 millimeters long. This is a big boy, this is a chungus, but it definitely does make sense, especially if you are going to be towing. So let's talk about that. So I actually had someone come up to me this week, very charged actually, coming up and saying, why the hell do you need such a large truck? Of course, he didn't know that I didn't actually own this. He just assumed I did. And it's a good question, especially as an inner city dweller like me. It's probably not the most appropriate, is it? However, if you live out in the country where size can often matter, or especially if you are towing, then these things really shine. So 4.5 ton brake towing capacity here for the LTZ. Go for the ZR2. It is slightly reduced capacity, and that is with a 70 millimeter ball. If you put on a 50 millimeter ball, a regular tow ball essentially, then you still only have 3.5 ton brake towing. However, one of the benefits of big American trucks is that they tow that 3.5 ton far better than any regular ute, especially from the size below. They just have much bigger, much more powerful engines and are much bigger themselves, so they're just more stable on the road in general. So yes, there is an actual benefit to buying a huge American truck like this. However, there is also a downside to big American trucks, and that is a reduced payload versus a regular ute. Whereas in a regular ute, you'd be able to get around 1 ton of payload. This has 757 kilograms. And so that means by the time you account for about 10% downbore weight, at 4.5 tons, that's 450 kilograms. Well, your max carrying capacity is going to be about 370 kilograms or so. So if you are towing 4.5 tons, just keep that in mind. A couple of me's, maybe 3 of me's, if I'm being kind, you'll probably go over the weight limit. Yeah, 3.5. 3.5. Let's talk about the way it looks though, because I do like these taillights. I don't like that this is a halogen bulb, especially at $130,000. It seems extraordinary to me, to be honest. Chevrolet badge there, embossed into the back. Do like that. LTZ, Silverado. You've got a couple of cameras here. This thing does have a comprehensive suite of cameras, including a bed camera and a really good 360 camera as well. Just like a Ford Ranger, you also get these side steps for easier entry in. You got a very steel bash plate there, so again, don't want to get hit by that. And before we talk about the tub, let's talk about the exhaust. You get these new dual mode exhausts, and when you switch it into either sport mode or off-road mode, valves open and it sounds epic. Here's what it's like stationary. And now here's what it's like on the move. Let me know what you guys thought of that down in the comments section below, but let's talk about this. We actually get the short bed here in Australia, and I don't think you need much more here. This thing is still enormous. It's 1,776 millimeters long, 1,813 millimeters wide, 1,286 millimeters between the wheel arches, and 569 millimeters tall. In fact, the total cargo volume is 1,781 liters. You also get a spray-in bed liner and heaps of tie-down points, 3 at the back, and some lights too. Of course, even though this thing does ride on leaf spring suspension, it is a softer leaf, which means more comfortable, but unfortunately, yeah, less payload in the back. Still very, very impressive, I think. Oh, and I didn't even mention, you get a powered tailgate. And even though it's a bit of a faff to find, it's also powered to close. How cool is that? Let's check out the interior. Alrighty. Coming inside now, the Chevy Silverado, what is it like? Well, honestly, it's normal. And I feel like when I get into a big American truck, it's often not. There's a lot of shit absolutely everywhere, and it's genuinely overwhelming. But this is really not. You get in here and it's probably the most car-like truck I've ever sat in, and I like that. So you get this very nice leather steering wheel. It is heated. It's got some nice clicky buttons to it. You know I love that. It just means it's using real switches as opposed to membrane, which no one likes. And you can do things like on the left-hand side, control your autonomous driving. On the right-hand side, you can go through this digital instrument display and show a bunch of information. It's actually pretty cool, including some very truck things like how many hours your engine operates, because actually a lot of real equipment out there, like real farm machinery, they don't operate in kilometers, they operate on hours, which is very cool. Oh no, my foot slipped. Oh, it sounds so good. Here we have a massive infotainment display. It does have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. Weirdly, Apple CarPlay anyway, it only takes up a small portion of the display. However, you can have a few other things on the right-hand side, so I guess it doesn't really matter. You have a bunch of trailer controls here as well, which is good to see, especially considering that this thing really is best suited for people who are going to be towing quite regularly. And it is very, very snappy, certainly far better than the system that came before it. Below it, you have a bunch of buttons, including a every windows down button. I don't know why more cars don't have that, although I kind of wish you didn't have to do this manually, close them all afterwards, but still, better than nothing. You've also got a quick select here to turn off your lane centering, which I know a lot of you hate, but actually in this car, it's really, really good. Including down to having vibration motors in the seat, so that when you are backing up, you actually have haptic feedback through your ass to tell you if you're gonna hit something. And honestly, it works well. It's very alerting. Up here, we have a nice big sunroof, and you can, of course, open it, which is good to see. I don't know why more Utes don't have that in Australia. Only the GWM Canon Alpha really has that, which is silly, I think. And you also have a button here which opens the back window. Love that too. So you can definitely get a lot of airflow in this thing if you want it. The one thing I really love about American trucks is that because it is the largest segment of vehicle, like numbers, volume-wise speaking, not just by size, they put so much R&D into these cars so that they can compete with the F-150, which in the US has been like the #1 seller over the last 50 years. So you get a lot of stuff thrown in here and a lot of really good ideas. For example, the fact that you still have physical climate controls. It's like a digi-analog setup. Sure, they could have just put it all in the display, but they haven't. I love that. You have cooled seats, you have heated seats just for the top part, and then you have full heated seats, including for your bum. You have your trailer controls here, including your brake gain controller. Storage is galore, as you would kind of hope for such a large vehicle. Huge storage area up front here. You've got another one in the center and one just behind this shifter, which by the way, yes, that has moved from a column mounted shifter to a drive-by-wire shifter here. You have a couple of cup holders here with some nice rubber teeth to really hold in your cups. This center armrest is very soft. Lift that up. You're going to see a wireless charger here. You have a massive storage area here, and below that is way more storage as well. You've also got a USB-C port, USB-A port, and that joins the USB-C port and USB-A port up here. You've got a split glove box here, enough space up top, but not a huge amount in the bottom. I don't know why American trucks are like this, but that's another thing. They've got weirdly small glove boxes. Maybe that's during the conversion process to right-hand drive, I don't know. You have soft touch materials in most places. It does feel very nice, including this faux wood trim here, which is interesting, but I don't mind it. The seats are a very nice leather unit. They're adjustable in so many ways, including for your under thigh support. You can get some really good support in these seats. I love that. If you flick this back, then you get a digital mirror, which is cool. It is quite a small screen, so I've actually kind of preferred using it normally, to be honest, but you can have that, especially if you have a load in the back, things like that. Very, very smart design. Oh, and shout out to the Bose sound system. Now, if you go for the ZR2, it actually deletes this Bose sound system and you lose a few other things. And in my opinion, that's a real shame because the Bose sound system in here sounds epic. It is a really, really good system. One other issue I found in here is that you do get a heads-up display, but I think that during the process of conversion, something has happened because it is quite blurry and I cannot make it fix for my vision. Yes, my vision is good. I have 20/20 vision, but for some reason, it just can't focus and kind of sucks. So I do turn it off for that reason, which is a shame. Perhaps that is a me thing. Perhaps that is a this thing. Let me know if you've had that experience, if you own one of these. All right, let's check out the back seats. Okay, so before we get in, I need to show you this. I love this in American trucks. Again, lift that up. It's so easy, one-handed. And then you get this huge amount of space in here. It's almost like the bed size of a Toyota Hilux. It is quite impressive. You get a bit of storage under these seats, which is nice. And very easy to drop these seats back down again. Also pretty easy to get in, which is good. Close this door. You can see I've just got a stupid amount of room, an enormous amount of leg room. Really crazy. Heaps of tow room as well. Heaps of headroom thanks to this cutout, especially in the roof. Amenities are good too. You get a couple of cup holders. The outboard seats are also heated, which is very cool. You get a USB-C port, USB-A port, a couple of air vents, map pockets here as well. Quality is also pretty good back here too. Oh, and a couple more very, very cool features. These leather seats back here, of course, they're very nice. They don't slide, and that is because inside of each passenger seat is a little storage box, which you could use as like a cooler or whatever you want to. Pull down this center armrest. It's nice and soft. You have 3 cup holders, 1 square one. That's quite interesting. And you know what else is interesting? Our car source buying service. That's right. Just Google car source buy, and my dedicated team of car buyers will get you the best deals on your next new car. We have thousands of dealers who we literally make fight each other to get you the absolute best price on any new car sold in Australia. First of all, because we charge the dealers a fixed fee, it is a totally free service for you. And that also means that we go in the hardest to get you the absolute best price possible, sourcing cars from everywhere in Australia straight to your doorstep. So if that sounds good to you, again, totally for free, make sure you just Google us, Car Source Buy, and my team will help you out. Let's launch it. Alrighty, it's time to launch this big behemoth. 6.2 liters, 2.6 tons. What will we do? Let's put the car into sport mode, turn the engine back on. Thank you, stop start. And then we are just going to launch it. So let's do it, fist me. I'm curious, it's wet. Slightly gentle takeoff, but let's see how fast we go. It feels pretty quick. Okay, holy shit. Holy shit. 0 to 100 in 6.62 seconds. It's absurd to me that this thing is that fast. That's crazy. Alrighty, let's drive this thing normally. Alrighty, driving the Chevy Silverado. I don't think there is a better sound in this world than a V8. You know, maybe a V10, maybe a V12 even, like my Toyota Century, but this V8, it just sounds so epic. So let's talk about it. 6.2 litre naturally aspirated V8 puts out 313 kilowatt of power, 624 newton meters of torque. Weirdly, it gets okay fuel economy on a highway, about 11.7 litres per 100 kilometers. But around town, yeah, you can expect probably around 16, 18 litres per 100 kilometers. It's not very efficient, nor does it sound very efficient, does it? It really doesn't. I don't care though. I love the sound of a good V8. So all of that power is sent through to all wheels via a full-time four-wheel drive system, though you can have it as a part-time, just rear-wheel drive only. Though on a wet day like today, I am not testing fate, and I am simply going to be using that permanent four-wheel drive. Oh, man. Now, like I said, all of these LTZ or Luxury Touring Z, or Z as you Americans would call it, premiums in Australia, well, they come with that Z71 package, which means we get the off-road suspension. And to be honest, on-road, it is actually very comfortable. Cruising around, there is definitely a firmness to the secondary ride, but that primary ride, when you actually activate the suspension, it's really quite nice. Quite soft. Feels quite good for a 2.6 ton behemoth. See, it's not small. Let's put this truck into sport mode. Put our foot down. Oh, the exhaust valves open up. This thing sounds very burbly indeed. The steering definitely does firm up a little bit, but I would definitely still say that is the weak point of this driving experience. It is a light steering, which is great for around town, but out here, giving it some sauce. Can't get over that sound. Yeah, look, you definitely notice that lack of... Oh, there's a dog. Hello, buddy. Hello. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come here. Yes, hello. Hello, wait. Shh. Well, I've just found a lost dog. You come up here? Come up here. Good girl. Good girl. Hello. We'll take you home, huh? Well, this is not what I expected when I was filming this review, is to have a lost dog. But she's soaking, and I seem to have her address, thankfully, on her collar. Poor girl seems really scared, but let me take her home. I think this is her home. I'll take this off so I don't freak out the owner.
A few minutes later.
Okay. Where was I? The other thing that's a little bit odd with this is just the steering. You can kind of hear that it's got a little bit of a, I don't know, rubbing to it. I'm not sure what it is. Could be normal, but I've never really felt something like that in a car before, so perhaps not, but you don't notice it when you actually take off, so could just be me. But yes, that's definitely the downside, though. To be honest, most of these trucks are like this, except for the Ford F-150, which does use a Ranger Raptor steering rack. However, that Ford F-150 has had a lot of issues recently, so at the moment, until those issues are sorted, it's kind of hard to recommend. Of course, the ultimate test is always going to be Saucy Corner. So let's take this big American truck up here. Here we are, Saucy Corner. Tickle my little pickle. Here we go. Jeez. Oh, the 10-speed automatic transmission really does shift very quickly. All right, hairpin numero uno. Wow, okay, I did not expect it to go up there that well. Number 2, yes, we do have to cross our hands, but that's pretty normal for any Ute. You know what? I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed by that. Did not expect it, if I'm being totally honest with you. The other thing it does very well, which is in its name, is Luxury Touring Z. Because of its adaptive cruise control, it just works so easily, so well. It does have lane keep assist, but it's not annoying. And it's got a pretty funny feature where the seat will actually vibrate when you get close to the lines. Just felt that in my left butt cheek. Don't worry, I won't cross that line. But yes, it is very, very good. And weirdly, as far as fuel economy goes, it is actually one of the better in the segment, despite its big 6.2 litre. And that's because it has cylinder deactivation, which I've always been a skeptic of, because when they first came out, well, they were pretty bad. However, as time has gone on, they've proven themselves to be fine with reliability, no real issues. So yeah, this thing will act as a 4-cylinder under light throttle load when you're not in sport mode like I am now. Of course, before we get into our final thoughts, I've got to give it one last dip of the sauce. Oh, it sounds so good. Pulls really hard as well. Yeah, I really like the way that this thing drives. Let's get into our final thoughts. Oh man, final thoughts on the Chevy Silverado LTZ. Should you go out and buy a Chevy Silverado? Well, before anyone comes on here and is like, no one needs a car that big. The reality is, if you are towing larger vehicles, there's nothing more safe at the moment for you than to tow it with one of these big American trucks. They do have a very good towing ability, especially with a maximum tow rating of 4.5 tons. Pretty good. And actually, of all the trucks that I have reviewed, the Chevy Silverado is a really standout pick. It's just being a good all-rounder. It kind of just does everything well. Fuel economy is weirdly good, especially on a highway. It's comfortable. It's got a nice interior, not too shouty. The engine is epic. I really, really do like it. And the whole package comes together very neatly. None of these come cheap, but I do think that if it suits your needs, you are really going to like the Chevy Silverado, even with some of its remanufacturing quirks, like the kind of interesting steering feel. And of course, the heads-up display that doesn't really work. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Would you go out and buy a Chevy Silverado? And of course, if you do want to go buy one, make sure you Google Car Source Buy, and my team will get you one of these for the best deal possible. Ciao for now.